Hey everyone, it's Stephanie from Climbing the Seven Summits. Welcome back to another wonderful webinar. We have a great crew on deck today, and I want to welcome you to our first Summit Side Chat, but our umpteenth webinar. And it's going to be all about inside the Climbing the Seven Summits Everest experience today. I'm on board today with our Climbing the Seven Summits leadership team in Nepal and in our home office. So that's Mike Hamill. He's on tap today. Caroline Pemberton, she's also one of our co-owners. And then, of course, we have Tendi Sherpa, who is joining us all the way from Kathmandu. So I'm going to give a little introductions to them, and they're going to say hello in just a second. But I want to start the conversation today because we are framing everything today around Everest. But what you're hearing today applies to not only all of our expeditions in the Himalayas, but also applies to really every Climbing the Seven Summits expedition, all the way from the Himalayas to Carson's Pyramid, all the way over to Aconcagua. The mindset, the systems, the logistics, everything that we are sharing here is what we do across the board for all of our programs. So to set the scene, Mike, I was actually reading your book, Climbing the Seven Summits, and there's a quote from Sir Edmund Hillary right at the beginning, who summited along with Tenzing Norgay Sherpa and became the first to summit Everest in 1953. He said this quote, and I think it's a great way to start the webinar today because it really nods in on one of our core tenets that we use at Climbing the Seven Summits. So here goes the quote. I've always hated the danger part of climbing, and it's great to come down again because it's safe. But there is something about building up comradeship that I still believe is the greatest of all feats, and sharing in the dangers with your company of peers. It's the intense effort of giving everything you've got. It's a very pleasant sensation. So folks, what I really am drawing in on there is the team. He really focuses in about there's something about building up that team, and it's the greatest of all feats to build up that team and to do it in great company, to share in the danger with your company of peers. So that sense of who you climb with, the trust you build in your teammates, it's really at the heart of our discussion today, and it's the foundation of so many things that we do at Climbing the Seven Summits. Everest has only been commercially guided since the 1990s, so the scope of mountaineering on Everest is quite young and it's still being shaped. But we're here today to learn all about it, how we're defining it, and how we're refining it. So let's jump into learning a little bit more about Mike and Tendi and Caroline today. All righty. So Mike, as you might know, is CTSS owner. He's our Everest expedition leader. He's lapped the Seven Summits 6 times, Everest 6 times. He's the author of that book I just mentioned, Climb the Seven Summits, and he co-owns it with Caroline Pemberton, his wife, who is also our co-founder, and she is really the heartbeat at Climbing the Seven Summits. If you are climbing with us, especially in Nepal, you probably have Caroline's email memorized, and you've probably sent her 17 messages already, which is wonderful. Caroline is also the architect of things like our Marginal Gains Philosophy, our No Dickheads policy, a lot of our inclusive programs like our All Women's program, our Masters program, those affinity ones that we see. Caroline and Mike, can you go ahead and do a quick hello, share a little bit more about who you are and why you're happy to be here today?
Hey guys, as Stephanie was saying, I'm a lifetime guide. I've spent the last 25, 27 years guiding the Seven Summits for a long time for other companies. And then back in 2017, started climbing the Seven Summits. But I think to start off, I'd like to say, I see a lot of people that are joining us on Everest in 2026 or beyond. It's great to have all of you here. Really, the goal of today is to educate you, get you up to speed, help you to understand climbing the Seven Summits and our approach. So thank you for joining us. I hope you get a lot out of this. And, kind of going back to Stephanie's quote, we are all about culture. I think that's one of the things that really differentiates climbing the Seven Summits from some of the other companies. We do vet our clients. We're strict about our no dickheads policy. We want to climb with good people. We want you to have a good experience. And culture is, that's why I do this. I do this because I get to meet great people from all walks of life, every country, continent. So that's the joy for us. It's the community, the culture, and that's what we're really trying to foster here. So I think that's one of the things that will really separate us apart from some of the other companies out there. So a little bit about me.
Love it.
Hey guys, I'm Caroline. I'm the other half of CTSS. I spend a lot of time with our back office team and also on the client side. So I will probably at some point speak to all of you. I get really passionate about helping people progress. So they come with a big dream to us. Maybe, they've got a goal in a year if they're super Everest ambitious or over 5 years. And we really love putting that progression together. I love families, right? I'm a wife of an Everest climber over there. And so I really understand what it is from the other perspective. And I really like to think about who is in your support network. How is that holistic kind of viewpoint going to either boost your dream or make it harder? So I spend a lot of time with families, Everest Wife Club. But I understand it from a couple of perspectives now, which I think brings a uniqueness to our team. I'm not just a mountain climber. If anything, I'm coming from the other perspective, and that's me. Everest is my baby. I spent a lot of time here. So for those of you who are in the room who are thinking about climbing Everest or wanting to know why climbing seven summits is very different on Everest, then you come to the right place, and we'll speak to you guys today about that too.
Perfect. Mike, so good to have you here. Caroline, as always, lovely to have you on. Folks, we are going to dive more into Mike's history guiding before he started climbing the seven summits and how that influenced things. And then Caroline will really be delivering a lot of what we dub our secret sauce, those things that really matter to us about our team culture, what we do when we're on the mountain. So finally, I also want to introduce Tendi Sherpa. Tendi is here with us today. He is an IFMGA mountain guide, so that's an internationally certified mountain guide. He is our Sirdar, which is a Nepali term for the lead guide for the Sherpas on Everest. Tendi has 18 summits, countless summits of Lhotse, Manaslu, Choi. I would call you a world-class guide, the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme. You speak 10 languages, and you set the tone and the heart and the trajectory for all of the Sherpas that are on our climbing team. You embody the spirit and the strength and humility that CTSS loves, and you really truly represent the modern Himalaya, guiding where it's moving and where we're moving towards. So Tendi, with no further ado, can you tell us a little hello and share anything else you'd like to about yourself or what you're looking forward to today?
Stephanie, thank you very much for your kind introduction. And hello, everybody. It's so good to be here with you guys today. It's a great pleasure. My name is Tendi Sherpa. I'm from Nepal, and I work with climbing the seven summits as a Sirdar. And Stephanie has explained the meaning of Sirdar. Sirdar is mainly the lead of the Sherpa team and then the guide team here in Nepal. This word is very traditional since the very beginning of the climbing expeditions in the Himalaya. They always had a group leader and a Sirdar. So I'm very honored to take this role for climbing the seven summits. And it's been about 26 years that I have been working on Everest, beginning as a climbing Sherpa, and then later as an assistant guide, and then as a guide, and now as a Sirdar and co-leader alongside Mike and my other guide colleagues here in the Himalayas. Yeah, mountain, especially like Everest, is a very sacred and very special for me and for all the Sherpas. And that's why we love to work on this special place every year. I have never been fed up working on a big mountains. Of course, it's a very tough. It's a big mountain, but we get very excited every seasons to go back there and work there. And that is my normal office. I think it's such a beautiful place to work, and especially when you have such a nice team like climbing the seven summits. It's just absolutely awesome to be there, awesome to work. And yeah, right now, like I summited Everest 18 times, and then many other mountains around Himalayas and also outside the Himalayas. Got a lot of experience and a lot of training, and still I'm learning. I'm not done yet learning. So every year I'm learning and being able to work with Mike on Everest every year. We always explore new ideas and new things, and we get to work with the Sherpa team. As my role as a Sirdar is it is almost a 1 year preparations for us for Everest. So, for example, like we just done our Everest climbing this year, and we started already for our Everest for 2026. So that means it is a big commitment and it's a big responsibility for us, and especially like for me as a Sirdar to make sure that we have a right team of Sherpas and guides for next year for working with us on Everest, and then make sure that they have the experiences of mountains. They have not only the experience of summiting mountains, but also like they have a training and everything. So it's really a long process for me to select our team here in Nepal. And I love to do that. And we have a Sherpa team, dedicated Sherpa team that has been working with us since the beginning of the CTSS Everest climbing expeditions. And they've been with us all the time, and they're working with us and they're learning. And we have a more and more Sherpa team every year, more and more guides working with us. And they all are very excited and very happy to be working with CTSS.
Awesome, Tendi. Well, we're going to be diving in more to the guiding team and really all those little components we put together for not only our Everest program, but also across the Himalayas. And Tendi, we're also going to have you talk a little bit about where you're from in Nepal in just a moment. So if you've been to a webinar before, you know I love a good agenda. This one looks a little different because today we're keeping things a little less like super structured. We want to make sure we have really good conversations. As Mike alluded to earlier, the goal today is to demystify Everest and help you understand the nuances between operators, the systems that we employ that will help make or break your climb. We understand that it's really actually quite hard to differentiate between operators sometimes and to discover what matters to you most. So by hearing what matters to us most, something might ring a bell for you and say, aha, that does actually really matter to me. And then you put that on your little tick list of what you're looking for in an operator. So we're going to talk about the Himalayas, how our company started. After that, we're going to jump into our secret sauce, and then we're going to get into a nice robust Q&A session at the end. And then, of course, we'll share our contact information. If you are interested in climbing with us, we'll have a link so you can sign up for a one-on-one consult call and things like that. But let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of an overview of what the Himalayas actually looks like, and then zoom in on Nepal a little bit as well. Here we have, of course, the broad Himalaya range. It is really the heartbeat and the home of high altitude mountaineering. All 14 of those world's 8,000 meter peaks are within that shape that you see right there. It stretches about 15,000 miles, 5 countries. There's 10 major rivers within there. If those rivers sustain over 1 billion people. So it's a dense area with a lot of mountains, a lot of people, a lot going on. Geographically speaking, it's actually 2 tectonic plates slamming together that make these gorgeous mountains, and they're still young and they're still rising, which is super cool. Everest one day could be taller, which I think is a really neat fact. So zooming in on Nepal, don't worry, folks, we are going to take a closer look at this map and get a better look at it. You see that we climb in primarily 2 different regions here. On the left, you see that that's the Manaslu region right there. So we do the Manaslu circuit trek, and then we have Manaslu. And then on the right, we have a whole bunch of peaks. Don't worry, we're going to zoom in on it so you can see what it looks like in the Khumbu Valley area. So with no further ado, I want to jump over to this map, and nobody knows these valleys better than Tendi Sherpa. Tendi, I know you grew up in the mountains. You grew up in this region. I think you grew up near the Khumbu region versus the Manaslu region. Can you share a little bit about what makes climbing in Nepal so special?
Yeah, so I'm from a valley called Kembalung. So Kembalung lies between Everest and Makalu region as a pretty remote area. It doesn't fall on the main trekking trail. So that's what I'm come from. And we have one special and beautiful mountain called Mount Samlang. That is a 7,000 meter peak. And so I'm from that valley. And that's the mountain that I've seen. I've grown, seeing this mountain since I was a child. And so like mountaineering is a very, very important for Nepal. As you know, that mountain tourism is one of the most important income source for Nepal, for our country. And that's where like every single mountains, when you come here and climb them, you need to get a permit for them. And so you're actually paying permit. And that fees will definitely contribute to the country economic. And at the same time, a lot of the people like guides and porters and, a lot of the people come from the Himalayan regions get benefited, getting involved in mountain tourism like trekking and expeditions, climbing expeditions and things like that. And at the same time, the local people get benefited from the mountain tourism. So mountain tourism is really, really important for Nepal and for us. And people really appreciate that, people come from around the world to climb and explore the different mountains in Nepal, especially like Everest. And if you look at the pictures of like Khumbu Valley about 50 years ago, it's a huge difference. It has changed a lot now. And, a lot has changed, a lot of good thing has changed because of the support and the health of the tourism.
Tendi, on behalf of all of us, we just want to say thank you for sharing the Himalayas and all of these regions and valleys with all of us and being excited to welcome us to it. It really does mean a lot for, I know, many of us here to meet people like you and to be so graciously welcomed into the region and to be able to share in on that. Folks, what's super cool is that our Himalayan program actually offers something for everyone. So if you're looking for a trek, we got Manaslu Circuit, we got Everest Base Camp. If you're looking for the roof of the world, we got Everest, we got Lhotse, we got Manaslu, Choy Yu, things like that. Those are some of those 8,000 meter peaks. What ties them all together? Of course, geographically, they're all in Nepal, they're all in the Himalayas, but of course, it's that backbone, it's our expedition logistics, it's our leadership, team structure, it's all the things we do to set the tone as an operator across the big mountains. We're going to talk a little bit about our history and our Everest legacy. So we understand that for most, Everest is a dream, but for us, it's a science, one we've refined over decades. Mike, we got you on top, number 6 right there. And Tendi, I think this was last year, number 17. Mike has been guiding across Everest for a long time. He first started guiding on Everest and he was actually with other companies. And he saw some patterns emerge. He saw some things that operators did or didn't do. He saw what maybe worked and didn't work. So Mike, I'd love for you to speak to that for a moment and go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you saw when you were first guiding on Everest.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent a lot of time guiding for other companies in the Himalayas. I did 10 Everest trips as a guide before starting climbing the 7 summits. And I learned a lot during that time. And I think, the setup I had when I was guiding was much more bare bones, not frivolous at all. Comfort wasn't a key component of those trips. It was more, get in there, run out the expedition. And there was a lot of safety and great support and all of that, but I learned what worked and what didn't work. And I think, on those trips, I saw people suffering from discomfort. It wasn't a comfortable base camp. People weren't necessarily happy when they were spending time at base camp. It was just kind of drudgery. And still a lot of people were successful. But what I took away from that was, I think we can refine this product. I think we can make it a better product. And, a lot of people say we're frivolous because we have such a comfortable base camp. We got a barista, we got hangout tents, we got heat, we've got upgraded accommodations. But what we find is that people that are comfortable and well rested, they climb well on the mountain. So, that's been our approach since the beginning. And we found that it's worked incredibly well for us. It's not cold, wet, damp, dark tents at base camp. We really want to make your experience a good one, both at base camp and on the mountain. That's something we've strived to do. And again, we've seen the results from that. We've seen the success. So, Tendi and I, as he mentioned before, we're constantly brainstorming on what we can do better, what we can do differently. And we let our climbers tell us what they want. I think that's a big difference between us and some of the other companies is, we don't want to tell you how the expedition needs to be. We want to let you tell us what you need. And we're all about customization. If you want to do the Hypoxico speed ascent, come in late because you can't take as much time away from home, that's great. We'll make that happen. If you want upgraded accommodations at base camp, we'll make that happen. If you need extra oxygen on summit day, we'll make that happen. That's one of our other key goals is to not treat everyone the same. If you go on our website, you'll see we've got a lot of different options, a lot of different programs for people to choose from. And that's been a big part of our kind of secret sauce as well as, not everyone comes to Everest with the same experience. Some people have climbed 8,000 meter peaks before. Some people have been on Everest before. Some people are coming straight off Aconcagua, maybe don't have the confidence stepping up to Everest. So, we've got a variety of different guiding styles, guiding ratios to accommodate everyone there. So I learned a lot from my formative days on Mount Everest, and we've parlayed that into climbing the 7 summits. And we continue to change and upgrade from year to year.
Mike, thank you for taking those lessons you learn and really applying them to CTSS. Nobody likes those wet, moldy tents that I know you've told us about. And it really is become how CTSS truly operates today. Folks, as we jump into our secret sauce and what sets us apart, I do want to call out that those lessons Mike learned, Has become our North Star. That's what we kind of refer to it as our North Star. And I'll explain what that means. Safety is always first. So we want people to be safe on the mountain, and that's number one. But then success is next up. We want people to be successful. So customizations, our marginal gains, making sure you have the systems in place to be comfortable, warm, not cold, not hungry. Those are our North Star, safety and success. Those pair together and they naturally flow together. So we are going to go ahead and jump in now, our secret sauce and really what sets us apart. So we think about it as 7 ingredients. We're little chefs in the kitchen and we're whipping up the best trip you can. Caroline, go right ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so I'm going to jump through these. These are kind of like when we sat down, we can do the same thing as every other operator, right? We can all put great staff on the mountain. We can have great guides. We can have great logistics. And what can we do differently that gives us that edge? So these are our spices as such, and I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. You can see the list there, but let's jump into them a little bit more. So customization, Mike's already spoken to that a little bit, but I want you guys to think about our programs. When you see our programs, you're going to see like there's a Western guided team climb, like an internationally guided team climb. And then there are one-to-one Nepali guided or international private climbers who are doing a climb on a private basis with one guide and themselves. And then we have like another group, another program where it's more like autonomous climbers. Maybe they're a guide themselves and they need to go out and get more experience. Maybe there's someone tapping off the 14 and Everest is number 5 on their list and they're pretty autonomous by now and they're looking more for logistical support. Think of those different programs as 3 separate and individual families, like a little family unit. CTSS as a whole has like a broader family. You know, like I think of it like Thanksgiving, right? Or Christmas. You have your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your nieces, your nephews. That's your broad family. That's climbing the 7 summits as a whole. But then once you pick a program, you're kind of narrowed into this immediate family. They're the people you have dinner with every single night. And what we do is we match make you. So we start to get to know you and say, hey, do you really work amazingly well in a team? Do you love the camaraderie? Do you get motivated by other people? Maybe the team climb is, you know, that's our traditionally most successful and our most popular program because our climbers report having the most fun. Or are you a bit more like, you know what, I've been around, I know what I want, I know the pace that works for me, I'm kind of on an individual goal here. When push comes to shove, I need to have flexibility on my schedule and I want that one-to-one personal attention, then our private is going to be the right move for you. And inside the private, you're in a little immediate family of other private climbers and their guides. And then our more autonomous climbers. Now, each of those families come into the valley, into the Khumbu on the trek, and they approach to base camp, their climb of Lobuche, and into their rotations individually. So they're different waves, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, different schedule, different base camp, dining tents, and they operate, although they operate together, they really don't, it doesn't feel big on the mountain at all. So you want to find the right family for you so that you can thrive with other like-minded climbers and that your expectations of how things are going to roll on the mountain are actually going to be met. Because if you're in the wrong family, you're going to really feel that around the dinner table. Do you know what I mean? You're going to be like, oh, I want to go right now. I don't want to be in a team. Or you might be like, I'd love some more motivation. I'd love a teammate to go, come on, Caroline, pick it up. Let's get going. So that's why we do these different programs, because different climbers climb in different styles and they get motivated or they get propelled forward by different things. So have a chat to us. That's kind of the tip of the iceberg, but it leads us into the resources, right? When you're looking at an Everest team, if you've got a small boutique type operator, that's great, but you might find that they don't have the resources that you need. Because if you think about our broader family, those individual immediate units are pooling into a broader family. So they're autonomous, but we share resources. It means we have a bigger pool of finance, to be honest, to do things like have better amenities, better quality of staff, better guides, better Sherpa, better support staff, better forecast, and most importantly, better redundancy. And Mike, like I'd love you to chime in here and talk about that because like we're possibly one of the only sort of self-sustaining teams on the mountain. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that's really important, having those resources for redundancies. We're always thinking about contingencies. Obviously, this is a very potentially dangerous environment. So we don't want to just be scrapping together and put on the mountain what the bare minimum of what we need. we want extra oxygen. We want extra Sherpa. We want to have great communications. We want to be able to perform our own rescues in the case that a rescue is needed. We want to be able to fix line if we need to. If some of the fixed line going up the low T phase gets taken out and we need to refix that, we want to have the resources to be able to do that. So I think that's one of the big benefits of our program is, we've got 50, 60 Sherpa on the mountain. If we need to be totally autonomous in a rescue or fixing line, whatever it may be, we can be. And we're always thinking about those redundancies. An oxygen bottle doesn't work at the self-call, not a problem. We've got extra oxygen. A Sherpa gets sick before going to the summit, not a problem. We've got 5 extra Sherpa that can go up that day. And most teams do not have these things, do not have these redundancies in their resources. And that can cost you your summit. And, they're just things that we'd put in place anyway, but it really helps to have kind of the bigger team to have those extra resources.
Yeah. And when we say like a bigger team, I don't know, average, we are probably 20 to 25 climbers across the broad family or Thanksgiving family. But in those like independent satellite immediate families, Western guided team, private, it's usually like 8 to 12 people. And that's what it feels like you're climbing in a team of, which is pretty small. So it never feels chaotic, and it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm in this huge group and we're all doing the same thing at the same time. You really have to think of them weaving around each other. Those people would be on the mountain anyway, just like we weave around other operators and there's stuff happening on the mountain. It's the same. It's just that when it comes to, having a bigger pool, having more resources, having more support, it's right there. And I think one of the keys to this, guys, about having the different programs that other climbers really can't do, and Mike kind of touched on it in terms of redundancy, is there's another bus coming. What does that mean? It means that if you get sick, which I'm sorry, the reality is at some point climbers are going to feel unwell, not their best, not their strongest. Sometimes a cold goes around base camp. We work a lot on that and we'll talk about that. That's our next webinar, actually, staying healthy on the hill. But, like if you got sick, you're going to hear Mike go to you, hey, I think it's time to go down, go lower, get to Lukla, get to Kathmandu, touch grass, get better, get well, get healthy, get happy, and then come back in. And because we have that, the first bus of the Western guided team, the next of all the privates, and there's like 10 buses on the route, the next of the autonomous personal Sherpa climbers, and, the guides that come off here. All of our guides, Tendi will tell you, are contracted to us for the season. They don't get to go home if a climber goes home. They're there. Why? Because of redundancy. So if you get sick on your schedule, that doesn't necessarily mean your climb is over. If you've got the resilience to stick around, then you're able to get better, have the time, take the time, get better, and come back in. And that's not something that I would say 99% of teams can offer because they don't have that structure. And that structure is really important. You can see how it's playing out in different ways. You've got more resources, you've got different autonomy, so you can do your own thing, you've match made to your style, and then you've got this opportunity to kind of like have a second chance if you got sick and had to get better, right? And we see that every year. So that's another one. I'm going to move to team structure as well. This again is kind of linked to the resources thing, but we take our team structure and we really strategize that. So we have different roles. When we first started climbing the 7 summits back in what were we, 2018, Mike, our first Everest season, Tendi, we had one team, right? And we did one thing, just like majority of operators do. And we found that everyone was spinning way too many plates. It was like a key person syndrome, right? Like when the guide is the business owner, is the expedition leader, is also trying to climb an 8,000-meter mountain for themselves while guiding other people, making sure that people are putting their sunscreen on, they're layering appropriately, they're taking in food and drink, they're looking at the crowding and the weather and where the Sherpa loads are coming from, and is the oxygen ready? Oh, and now I'm taking a sales call for my next 8,000-meter expedition that starts, 2 weeks after this one. And now I'm also trying to meet payroll and do emails. Like, you're climbing an 8,000-meter mountain. We tell you to clear your decks for a reason. We can't have too many people spinning plates. So we're really strategic. We sat down as a team and said, okay, how do we structure this so that nobody's doing too many jobs? And if a key person gets taken out by they get sick or something comes up, how can we make sure that there's redundancy there? So our structure is important. So you have Mike, right? Mike's your air traffic controller. Think of him as Mr. Big Picture. He's not just only a guide, right? Yeah, he's climbed Everest 6 times, but he's also like played every position on this field. He's a player, a coach, owns the game, understands how the field needs to be set up. He's your like big picture guy, and he brings 20 years of experience, right? So he's looking at the overall strategy. He's overseeing all the guides and the guide decisions, making sure they're making the right decisions on your behalf. He's strategizing with you as a climber. You stand there and go, Mike, I'm feeling really sick. And he's going to go, okay, well, where's the next bus route? How do we fit you in there? Right. And then he's backed up by Big Tendi. So this is Little Tendi, everyone, but there's another guy called Big Tendi. He's the technical director of the Nepalese Mountain Guide Association. He's literally trained a generation of Nepali mountain guides. So he's also there. He's facilitating the Sherpa team from base camp, the logistics, making sure things are running smoothly. Are the heli loads coming in with fresh food? No one else does that. They don't have co-expedition leaders. He's setting up the Sherpa, making things happy from there. We have a dedicated oxygen manager at the South Goal. And then we have Tendi. Tendi's our upper mountain Sirdar. So from Camp 2 to the summit, Tendi's making sure everything runs smoothly. You've summited twice one season, right? Doing that. And then we have our guide stuff. Yeah, and our guide stuff are like our pilots in the plane with you guys as co-pilots. They're looking at the immediate things happening at the day in the cockpit with you, making real-time decisions. And because they're not trying to think of other stuff, they're right there. They're present. They're responding to the moment. They're making sure that you're not going to get a cold injury or frostbite, that you're doing great. And they don't need to worry about the big picture because they've got support. And then from a business point of view, Mike obviously is owner of the business and he's got me. So when it comes Everest season, it's like we keep Mike siloed to Everest, right? And I'm dealing with what's coming up in June and July and August and the Himalayan fall. And I'm working with our team expedition managers in the back office, and I'm making payroll and I'm writing all emails and talking to you guys. He's not having to do that. Because if you have that same person, what happens when the guide who's the business owner, who's the expedition leader gets sick and they've only got one bus? Do you know what I mean? So the structure is really important, and it means there's calm leadership under pressure. Everest is a high pressure environment. It means there's more bandwidth, more resources when you need it. If a family member is finding this hard and you're up on rotation and they're sending an email, that email's going to get replied to because there's people here. If there's a crisis on the mountain, whether it's our team or another team, we also are able, because we've got so much redundancy, to support other teams as well and keep the mountain safe in general. The Mike and the Tendies and the guides are on it. It means we have rescue readiness and can change the strategy in real time. And that has been like key. So we really protect each other and silo the workloads. This is what you do. This is when you do it, and we don't put it all on one person's plate. So that's kind of the team strategy. I wanted to talk about, like, Mike, there was a story that I wanted to raise here around that calm leadership under pressure, and kind of forgot about it when we were talking about the different, there's different buses coming. Can you tell us a bit about like Julie and what happened for Julie and Tendi, because you guided Julie? Could you chime in and tell us about that summit day?
Yeah, just broadly, we had this client, Julie, who was climbing with Tendi, and she got really sick after her last rotation, and she was not going to get better at base camp. She had to go to Kathmandu. So she made the wise decision to fly to Kathmandu. She spent a week in Kathmandu, was completely better. That did the world for her to spend that time low. She flew back in and then climbed with Tendi. And because we have that ability to kind of, customize our schedule, she was able to go up and summit with Tendi. She was one of the last summiters of the season, but that's not a problem. Our goal was to get her down, get her healthy, and bring her in so that she could be successful. So that's kind of the broad picture of, Julie's climb. And she was really upset after that last rotation because she thought her climb was over. So we just put our heads together and found a solution for her. And luckily it worked out. So
yeah, Tendi, what was that summit day like? Because you guys absolutely nailed that. Tell us about that summit day a little bit.
Yeah, that was a pretty good experience. Usually we always try to climb in the early winters or something like that. And as, Julie got sick, I also catch a little kind of like a flu, and I had to get like recover from that. And it was recovered finally. So Julie and I went to like a last summit push. And we were almost like the whole mountains were for ourselves. It absolutely looked a lot better because there wasn't any traffic. We didn't have to wait for any traffic. And as she completely got recovered after spending a week time in Kathmandu, she felt very, very strong. And I felt very strong too. And so we managed to reach the summit of Everest on such a perfect day, great views. And we came back down all the way to camp for that day and then to base camp the next day. So it was pretty short and pretty quick trip to the summit and back down to base camp as we were well acclimatized and well prepared.
Yeah, thanks, Tendi. And I guess this brings me to kind of my next point. So that kind of goes in. Julie's story is a great example of like our season strategy. When you come to look at different operators, I really want you to hone in on the date. When are they arriving in Kathmandu? And now the first instinct you're going to be is like, well, that's so long and I can't take that much time away from home, my family, work. It's really hard, right? And there are strategies for that if you can't, i.e. speed ascents, which we do. But if you come into the valley early and you're acclimatized and you've done everything you needed to do, one, you buy yourself a little bit more fudge factor for like, I got sick and need to catch another bus. But most importantly, you are ready for the first and earliest summit window. What we're seeing is a movement and a trend towards an earlier summit window. So when Mike, you started, there was so much, like what was the Khumbu Glacier like? What are you seeing? Are you seeing climate change or differing in the conditions on the mountain in real time? Because what we're seeing from this graph is that you're seeing everything moving forward, right? We're starting to get earlier and earlier summit windows that we want to be ready for. Like, how's it changed, Mike?
The first, 4 or 5 years that I was trying to summiting Mount Everest, we're always shooting for kind of the 20th to the 30th of May there. And conditions were really good. They were really stable that late in the season. But what we're finding now is the season is shifting forward. It's quite a bit warmer now than it was in that late season. And there are big hazards and concerns with that. There's more rockfall. The ice in the Khumbu Glacier is shifting. Khumbu Glacier is moving faster. Anchors are melting out because there's so much water from the snow and ice melt coming down the Khumbu route. So we're finding that, in order to avoid those hazards, we need to move the season up a bit. So we're shooting for those earlier summit windows. And then, of course, if people get sick or whatnot, we've got a lot of contingency time in there. People can push a little bit later, but we want to be out of the icefall by about the 20th now. Whereas, 2005, when I started climbing on Everest, you could be in there safely until the 30th. It's just warmer. It's melting out now. So the whole season is shifting forward. So we're shooting for those earlier summit windows. And if you're coming in late and then you get sick and then the weather's bad, then you just run out of time and you don't get an opportunity, or you have to risk this rockfall later in the season, which we're really trying to avoid. So we're seeing everything shift forward and we're aiming for that as well. And I think it's really important for climbers' safety.
Yeah, exactly. And it also comes down to crowd management. One of the most frequently asked questions that we get is like, well, how do you guys manage the crowds? And when you're acclimatized early, so you come into the Khumbu early, you do your acclimatization rotations, you're kind of ready for that first window. Now, if the first window is chaos and like there's too much going on or the weather's not perfect, then there are going to be other windows and we will play it by ear, right? Like we are definitely seeing this tightening and earlier windows happening and we're responsive to that. But it also gives us the opportunity for like, well, the crowds are going to be really big on this day. We don't want to play that. Or we can see in our custom long weather report, it's incredible from a military meteorologist. And we're really invested in looking at like, okay, where is the next window? And then even if we get shoehorned, but you're not shoehorned on the back of the season. Does that make sense? Because you came in here. So you have the whole section to choose from, no matter what happens. But you're not getting shoehorned into the end of the season and you're not getting shoehorned necessarily into the crowd. So we can move around. And then, you know what? Weather windows do get compressed. We've seen that a couple of years in a row. We've seen big crowds. You've all seen that really famous photo that NIMS took of the crowds that was all over the news and everyone was, like, this is crazy. There are ways that we strategize around those days. If you get stuck onto one of those days, there are ways and means, right? One is we've vetted you. You're a good climber by now. And two, we've gone through skills and skills and skills. And three, your guides are really good too. So if they need to move around people, they can. But more than that, we'll look at it and we'll be like, okay, we might need to move our whole strategy for summit day up a little bit. and change the time when we leave the South Pole. You'll be amazed by how many sheep there are on Everest. They do the exact same thing every year. Doesn't matter if the conditions are different. They leave exactly the same time from the South Pole, and you get behind the Disney line, as I call it. Like if you rock up to the most popular Disney ride at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., you're going to be stuck in a 4-hour line. Like you have to get out of your tent. You have to be responsive. You have to be ready. Your guides will be ready. They'll be talking to you about the strategy. If you have to leave a little bit earlier, then we'll leave a little bit earlier. If we have to climb through the dark more, we'll climb through the dark more. You know, we had a team on that day with the famous photo. We had a team on that day, and not a single one of our climbers is in that photo, and yet they all summited safely and successfully. So like there are management around the crowds and the season that also come from, you know, Mike, 20 years of doing this, Tendi, 18 summits. Like, you know how this plays out on the upper mountain. Okay, Mike touched on this a little bit earlier. This is another of the seriously secret special sauces. This is probably the biggest flavor hit, right? Like if you had to look at our secret recipes, this one packs the biggest punch. We get criticized about being soft. Everyone's fully okay with that. Why? Because it's actually not being soft at all. It's being really strategic. You would not expect an Olympic athlete to rock up and play hard on performance day, right? And win if they hadn't slept properly for 2 months. If their nutrition was spam and rice for 6 weeks, right? If every night they're freezing cold and their body's using energy to stay warm every night, would you expect them to perform? No. If they were miserable and unhappy and like, I'm bored, would you expect them to perform? So why do we need to perform as mountaineers and suffer? It actually doesn't make physiological sense at all. The altitude is already against you. You're already in an environment that is hostile. You don't need to make it more hostile. You need to make it better, right? Because at the end of the day, you guys need to focus on your climbing. To focus on your climbing, you need to be healthy. You need to not be sick. You need to be eating a ton of good food, even when your body doesn't feel like it. It needs to be, you know, full of nutrition and heavy, heavy, heavy energy loaded. And you actually need to want to eat it because you're not going to want to feel like eating. So we bring in a Western chef who's going to just totally treat you for 6 weeks and feed you up, you know, because everyone loses weight on Everest. Hopefully our team doesn't lose as much weight. So we want you to eat. So we do all these little things and we spend a ton of money here because then you're going to perform better and you're going to be happy and you're going to be focused on what you're doing. And then we've added like an a la carte menu, right? On top of our, like, this is our base, here's the a la carte. And that usually comes down to like, you know, accommodation. I go back to my like plane analogy. I use the plane analogy a lot, the air traffic controller and the plane. The plane is going to the same destination. It's got the same pilot, it's got the same engineers, got the same baggage handlers, got the same airline crew, right? That plane is flying to that destination. No matter where you sit on the plane, you're going there, right? But where you choose to sit is up to you. So we'll have an economy option and it's pretty damn good. Like we're a pretty good airline. And then you'll have premium economy, business, and first class. And, you know, as one of our clients famously said, I love it so much. He said, you know, you can board that plane and you can turn left or you can turn right, but this flight is 6 weeks long. So if you're going to spend money anywhere on your expedition, making yourself comfortable, if you don't sleep well, make sure that you've got an accommodation option that is going to optimize your sleep because it's really strategic. Right? If you know that people like snore a lot or you run cold like me, work hard to give yourself a warmer option. And then there's things like extra oxygen and there's a whole bunch of different add-ons that will fit your style and budget and experience. And it goes back to that customization. So we call this the marginal gains philosophy. It's 1% here, 1% there, cumulatively a huge difference overall, right? So where is your 1%? And what are you doing? What are you doing pre-expedition before you rock up with us? And what are we doing while you're sitting at base camp? Because traditionally, you're above base camp for what, Mike, is it 10, 11 nights, generally speaking, out of 6 weeks?
Nights on average, yep.
So like you can suffer for 10 to 12 nights, but do you have to suffer for 6 weeks? And like Mike talked about boredom. Boredom is a really real thing up there. And you'd be like, how does boredom play into me summiting or not summiting? But like when people get bored, they get negative, they get depressed, they get homesick. They start questioning why they're there. They start questioning everybody else. And that attitude is really contagious inside the team, right? So like if everyone's feeling sad, it's pretty hard to like be like, yeah, we're about to take on the hardest day of our lives. Let's go. You know, so we work a lot on boredom. So we have like ping pong games and it's fun around camp. And that's the marginal gains philosophy. And then that plays into our no dickheads, excuse the swearing, but it's true, our no dickheads policy, right? So you'll have seen that hopefully around And we actually take this quite seriously. We obviously vet our climbers on whether they're experienced enough to be there, but we're also watching your character. So from the very first email, sorry, I'm going to put you on notice. I'm going to let you know. From the very first email to our team, we're watching. We want to know that you're a great person and you can hold us to the same standards. We hold our guides to a standard of behavior. They sign a code of conduct. You will sign a code of conduct. We only want to climb with people who are humble, like-minded, having fun, bringing something to the team, an asset, because on Everest, it's a pressure cooker. It's stressful. It's a huge stage. At some point, it is going to bring out the best in you, and at some point, it's going to bring out the worst in you. At some point, it's going to bring out the best in our staff, and at some point, it's going to bring out the worst in our staff. But if the benchmark is already high and people are already rad, that just is fine. That's the natural kind of rhythm and attitude of the day. But if the benchmark is low and you have someone who is there and is entitled and is a bit of a dick and wants it their way and is, abusing the staff, that is going to affect your expedition. And that's not cool. So we're like all about culture. We're all about, and we have fired not only suppliers, like entire operations in country, middle of season on Aconcagua. We've fired guides. We've fired clients, and we'll be watching our expedition managers. We're really collaborative as a team. We're only little. We talk to each other all the time. We'll know if people are not kind on expedition to their fellow teammates, they'll never climb with us again. Tendi, you have a rule for the Sherpa. How long are they not allowed to work with us if they screw up?
Yeah, it's like 5 years or not, no more with us.
Tendi's being diplomatic. 5 to 10 years, right? Like you don't get a second chance. So when you rock up, you already know that like your team's going to be rad. People are going to be there for the same reasons, and you're going to have great staff around you, and the attitude is positive. And like people come into our camp all the time, and they're like, "Wow, just the energy and the feeling and the vibe is like really different." And that was by design, Mike. Like you had that for 10 years on other companies, and
Absolutely. Yeah, when people start getting bored and uncomfortable, those long down periods at base camp, that's when we see them start wandering up to our camp looking for a cappuccino or a game of table tennis or, a bit of warmth. So we take that as praise for our setup. So
yeah. And then the final secret sauce, the final ingredient is actually what happens before you rock up. Right? Like, you can see how we are different on the mountain, but like at the end of the day, we're all an airline taking you to a destination. We're all at base camp taking you to the summit of Everest safely and successfully, right? What is different? Another thing is what happens beforehand. So when you start talking to us, hopefully you'll get a response pretty damn quick, unless it's a holiday and we're all having Thanksgiving. But, you'll get a response from one of our team. And we'll give you customized advice. And we've got expedition managers who will give you holistic pre-expedition support. You write in and be like, the La Sportiva boots don't fit me. Danny will write back and be like, hey, have you tried this? Did you know that these guys do custom boots? Oh, you're a woman climber and you're really tiny and petite and none of the down suits fit you. Did you know this company does custom tailored feathered down suits? Like, go here, go there. We'll give you training support. We'll give you coaching. We'll talk to your families. The amount of family conversations I've had, I actually encourage it. I say, hey, your support network is massive. Like, I'd love to do a family call. If you would like a sports psychologist, because maybe you've done Everest once before and now you've got like a mental jam about it, we've got amazing sports psychologists. We've got nutritionists. We've got breathwork experts. We've got this amazing ecosystem to get you ready for this game and to make you feel the best when you rock up. It's not like, oh, I sent my money into a black hole and then like they told me to arrive on the 15th of April. And I don't know, I just get there and then I send emails and they never reply. Ugh. You spent a lot of money. This is a really big deal. We take it as such, we treat it as such, and that's kind of the 7 secret sauces.
Alrighty, so let's jump into what does success look like on Everest. We've told you about our program, how we run. Now we want to talk about a little bit about you, besides your no dickheads factor, what you're bringing to the table. So let's go with Tendi first. Tendi, we'd love to hear a little bit about what traits or what things do climbers have that are successful on Everest have in common?
Well, first of all, Everest is a huge dream for everybody. And we understand that so well. Sherpa point of view, I understand that so well how important summiting Everest is and how important that, to fulfill that dream is for our climbers. So that's why we always prepare ahead of time. We invest so much time and so much, discussions with our team and we take a long time for preparations. For example, I think a lot of the time what people do is like they prepare for Everest expedition maybe 2 months before the expedition starts. But whereas we feel like once Everest season is done this year, we immediately start for next year. We take huge amount of time to discuss what we can do next year, what we can do better next year. Selecting a right team of Sherpas, selecting a right team of guides. Like Caroline mentioned before, we have a large group of Sherpa team and guides team. And sometime after working together for the seasons, if we need to change someone, if there's someone that we think might not fit in the team, then we may have to change that. And because there are a lot of Sherpas and a lot of guides team who are really interested to work with climbing the seven summits, because we have got quite a unique team up on the mountain. And a lot of people, local staffs has also dreamed to work with us. And we appreciate that. But for us, the most important is to make sure that they are on the same page. They meet our philosophy of working. And so that's where, like for me, most important is to have a proper team and then proper preparations to achieve this dream for our clients, because our clients' dream to climb Everest is also a dream for us. It is actually a shared dream. So we want to make sure that, we have all the resources and logistic in place to make the dream come true. We spend so much time on logistic, and first thing what we do is selecting Sherpa and guide. Then at the end, we spend almost like 2 months before we move for Everest Base Camp to make sure that we have every single things we need for like throughout the Everest expedition. So, it's very far away, like to get to the Everest Base Camp. So we have a huge number of staffs that works on buying foods and packing them and sending those gears from like Kathmandu to a place called Takshindo, which is 2 days of drive in the truck. Then we move those cargoes to like Khumbu Valley by helicopter long line. And then after that, we still walk 3.5 days to get to Everest Base Camp, where we hired like a lot of yachts and lots of porters to move the gears to Everest Base Camp. And we start setting up Everest Base Camp about a month before our clients start to arrive in Kathmandu. And then so Everest Base Camp setup is a huge, huge thing for us, because we need to make sure that we select the good spot, where the water are clean, where we get less crowded, where we get like, less crowded of people or visitors and things like that. So we always try to select a nice, cozy spot for our team. And we built kind of like our own little town there and separately from everybody and pretty close by the icefall. Then, once we are set up all the base camps and everything, our climbers gets to Kathmandu, and then they finally start to walk to the base camp, including their acclimatization hike and climbing Laboche on the way up to base camp. And the good thing is that, a lot of our climbers are guided by personal guide, or like a team guided, Western team guided, or private Sherpa guided team, or personal Sherpa guided team. So they're like guided by individual team. So they have a little different experience rather than being in a big group, guided by one person or two persons, and being there like in a huge team. It's kind of like overwhelming. Whereas the difference with us is like, people get to hike with their guide to base camp, and they will get to climb the Laboche peak. And so by the time they get to base camp, we Sherpa team work together to separate all the logistic that we need for the high altitude. And we perform like a huge prayer ceremony at base camp to ask for the safe passage for the mountains for all our team. And also it is kind of like an introduction between our members and Sherpas and guides at base camp. And after we finish that wonderful prayer ceremony, which we call puja, and this is a very traditional things of, when you climb in the Himalayas. So after we have done that prayer ceremony, clients and guide will spend several days for training in the icefall and make sure that they have all the skills that they need for climbing further off, above base camp. And while they do that, our Sherpa team, and like, for example, me, I take care of the logistic up on the mountain. So I spend a lot of time with the Sherpa team to make sure that we're taking right things for high camps, like Everest, like Camp 1, and then Camp 2, and then later on, like Camp 3 and Camp 4. So the most important is like oxygen bottles, and then like fuels and foods and tents and everything. We work a lot on the logistic, and as Mike will be there, it is so easy for me as a Sirdar to be there with Mike and discuss about our logistic, what we need up there, what we don't need. This is like really unique. I mean, I can't find that in every other team. Whereas we have this such a solid team there, especially having Mike at base camp makes us a huge relief, and it takes off so much pressure off the shoulder because there's, if we get like some questions or anything, as Mike has got so many years of experience up on the Everest, it's like we radio to base camp, say, hey, Mike, what should we do this and that? And we get the answers right away and we can fix the things, very immediately. And other thing is like, comfortable base camp is like something very new for us. And this was kind of like our idea because we really want to make sure that our clients are very comfortable and they rest well. And one of the things is like above the base camp, everything is quite simple, like tents and everything. And what happens is like after they climb to camp 2 or camp 3 during their acclimatizations, our clients get so excited to go back down to base camp because they talk about, you're going to get good sleep and you're going to get good food, That's something what I'm really excited about our base camp setup. So like people are so excited and so happy to go down, get well rested. And we have got this communal dome where Sherpa guides and members and Sherpa team kind of like do a celebration every day, playing ping pong together or playing cards and hanging out in our own cafe. We have got a so different way to get a good rest. And that's very, very important. And like for the Sherpa team, we really make sure that they also get a good rest and they're also very strong before they start to move the gears above camp 2. Because above camp 2, they need to carry to first camp 3 and then to camp 4, which is almost at 8,000 meter. And so after they finish the carry load to camp 2, we make sure that they get enough time at base camp to rest, eat well, sleep well. And then once they're well rested, we move them to camp 2 and then they will start to carry all the logistics to camp 4. And it is a pretty tough job, to move those things from camp 2 to like camp 4. And so sometimes, when you have enough manpower, sometimes people get kind of like a pressure for their summit push. Like they haven't finished carrying loads to camp 4 and it is already time to go to summit. So we really want to make sure that our Sherpa team gets enough rest before they could carry to camp 4. And after that, they get some days of good rest for the summit push. And with this, the good thing is that CTSS has a lot of extra Sherpas, Sherpa manpower and guide resources. And that really is so helpful. Like Mike mentioned earlier, like if some of our Sherpa feel sick or one of our guide feels sick, we always have somebody to replace right away. And then for oxygen, things is so important, especially like at the last camp at 8,000 meter. And we make sure that we have got like tons of extra bottle of oxygens there before our members start their summit push. And so in case of like if we need to stay like one extra day at South Call, or if we need like if some of our members decide to have a one extra bottle or two extra bottle at South Call, we have that backup there and we feel really, really good. And another thing is also like we keep always a backup Sherpa team at South Call, and we call them backup rescuer. And so those rescuer will be so helpful, like in case if somebody needs a help on the way up, they can always jump in, they can always run towards the summit and help us, with like the rescue and things like that. And now most of the time, like we have a guide, like backup guide, and they just come behind the team. So like the team leaves at South Call about 8 or 9 p.m. at night. And then our guide, that backup guide and Sherpa rescuer, Sherpa team will just walk by themselves. And he stops every time he sees our team and make sure that all is good. And we got like extra oxygens and extra masks and regulator with each guide and each Sherpas, and also that backup rescuer team. So that really makes it a lot different about our team. And for me, this is the reason why I love to work on Everest every year, just because of our great team and great resources and all this great backup.
Awesome. Tendi, thank you for walking us through really the reality of what it's like on the ground on Everest, moving from camp to camp. Also, what your team is doing. One thing that I keep hearing resounding, it doesn't really matter who you are, whether you're on the Sherpa team, whether you're one of our other guides, whether you're Mike, whether you're coming in as a co-pilot, as a climber, preparation is key. You guys are setting up the tents. You're doing all of that. You're getting your oxygen bottles up and down, moving things about, and climbers are preparing themselves. You mentioned that some people just start thinking about it 2 months out, but you're starting now. And that's also what we ask of our climbers is to really start this journey long before, way longer than 2 months before your Everest climb. And so, Mike, we actually got a really good question, which was exactly the question I was going to ask you as a follow-up about preparation climbs for Everest. So imagining you've done things like Alpine Academy, like we have a Baker course, maybe you've been in Ecuador, you've done Aconcagua, you've been peppering around. What kind of climb is really going to get you ready for Everest?
Absolutely. I think looking at the broader picture, you need to walk before you can run. If you're just starting out, then you want to start small, start low, as Stephanie mentioned, starting out with training programs like our Alpine Academy, 5-day Alpine Academy on Mount Baker. That's a great place to start. So you need to start small, learn the fundamentals, build those skills, build the repetition, those systems that you'll hear me harp on time and time again about, but start small and then work your way up. Ecuador volcanoes, go do something like Kili, Aconcagua, Denali. And then, if you're looking at Everest, I very highly recommend getting an 8,000 meter peak under your belt before stepping up to Everest. It teaches you a lot about that style of climbing, using the oxygen systems, how your body adapts at those extreme altitudes. The difference between 7,000 meters and 8,000 meters, Aconcagua and a Manaslu or a Cho Oyu, is quite substantial. So to have an 8,000 meter peak under your belt before Everest, I think is super, super important. It builds confidence as well. You get to know the Sherpa, climbing with the Sherpa, working with that community, and just the general style of climbing in the Himalayas. I climbed Cho Oyu a couple times before stepping up to Everest, and that gave me so much confidence that I knew I belonged there. I knew that I could handle Everest. And if you're jumping up from, a Denali or an Aconcagua, depends on who you are, your strength, your personality. It can absolutely be done. And a lot of people are successful with that. But if you can make it happen, try and do an 8,000 meter peak ahead of time, something easier, a little bit lower, like a Manaslu or a Cho Oyu. That'll just help you so much for increasing your chance of success on Everest.
Yeah, wonderful. Mike, thank you for adding that in and painting that preparation. And you mentioned it, we really do work with people to build those custom training plans. So we take a look at what you've done already, what you haven't done, and then we're going to make specific recommendations. Our expedition managers, with the support of Mike and Caroline, are going to say, hey, you should do X, Y, and Z, because maybe you've already done Denali, maybe you haven't. And so we look at the holistic climbing journey that you've been on. And I know somebody was also chiming in that was where they were young. They're 26. No, you're not too young. We have to get all your ducks in a row and get you trained up and really make sure that you are ready to go for Everest. Because as Tendi alluded, preparation is everything. Making sure you are set and ready to go, just like the Sherpas are set and ready to go. That means the systems can go off with hopefully no hitches. We will also put in the chat box our consult call. It's a Calendly link, and that is a way for you to just go ahead and schedule a 20-minute meeting if you're really interested in climbing with us in the next this year, next year, or even in 2027, because we're still in 2025 here, and in 2027 as well. Please book that consult call and chat with Caroline and Mike about your plans, whether it's starting with first ascent or you're just looking even at Baker, or you're onwards to Everest and looking at Everest Base Camp Trek even. We're happy to chat with you. So, Mike, I do want to take the last little bit of time because there is one thing we haven't talked about, and it's the first kind of 4 questions here. We've talked about managing crowds. Tendi did a really great job of talking about preparation and gear and oxygen and how things are moving about on the mountain. Folks, if you have more questions about gear and training, check our YouTube, because we've done webinars fully on gear, fully on training, fully on mindset and nutrition, all with experts in that field. But Mike, let's talk about these first 4 questions. Big price ranges, big expense climbing Everest. There are cheaper expeditions. What is this really going to cost me? So I know I just landed 4 questions at you, but they're all kind of collective, and I'm going to let you talk about it now.
Yeah, no, I'll kind of break it down. So the first one, the price range, I think that really comes down to our customization. You'll see companies that only have one price point and you're only getting one product. So whether you've been on Everest before, or Everest is your 5th 8,000 meter peak, or you're coming off Denali, stepping up to Everest, you're thrown into the same program. So The price variation is our customization. So whether you want a one-to-one Sherpa guide, you want to be on a Western guided team climb, they're all different price points. So we're trying to customize that to you. And in terms of the cost, obviously climbing Everest is an expensive endeavor. There are cheaper companies out there. I'll keep this really short. I could go on for hours about this, but a lot of the cheaper companies, some of the local companies, they're logistics providers. They're not guide services. So be very careful there. Do your homework and know that if you see a cheap price tag, there's a reason for it. And that is going to affect your safety. And a lot of times they'll pair you with like untrained, unexperienced Sherpa, no guidance at all. And if you get into trouble up on the mountain, they're very frank about the fact that they have no obligation to you. If you get into trouble, that's your fault. You shouldn't have signed up for the trip. That's not our philosophy. We want to make sure you're safe and successful in that order. So we have these redundancies in place. We have great communications and all of that. Our obligation is to do our best job to keep you safe. So it's a totally different mindset. But in terms of the price point, obviously it's very expensive. Like I said, I think where we're positioned, we invest a ton in our setup and we're actually less expensive than our direct competitors. We try and create a really good value for our climbers. We want to offer a lot for a very reasonable price. So if you look at our direct competitors, we're actually not that expensive. We're quite a bit cheaper than they are. So, we want to give you that value. I kind of talked about the cheaper expeditions and why they're cheaper. Do your homework, like I said, make sure you understand what you're buying and understand that if you don't have a ton of experience, your safety can be at risk for sure. At climbing the 7 summits, whether it's Everest or Vincent or whatever else, we try and make all our expeditions all inclusive. So that's everything, food on mountain, oxygen, guidance, myself, expedition leader, Tendi support, the entire team. There can be a few other small costs that we ask you to contribute to. Talking about Everest, we ask everyone to contribute to a Sherpa tip pool. That goes to everyone, the climbing Sherpa, the cooks at base camp, the porters on the trek. And that just allows us to take care of everyone so that they take care of you or they take care of the team the next year and be very equitable with that. Like you may tip your guide, but not the cook at base camp. So it allows us to tip the cooks at base camp and everyone behind the scenes. Other than that, there aren't really many other costs outside of what you're paying in your fee to climbing the 7 summits.
Awesome. Mike, can you though speak a little bit about, there are some costs as in like insurance, maybe hiring a coach, any of those, obviously we require all of our climbers to carry insurance, any of those extra costs, like for gear, anything you're really seeing that is like, you should really look at hiring a training coach or a nutrition coach, anything that you think is really beneficial when they're weighing the cost of the full expedition to get them there?
Yeah, you mentioned insurance. I think it's important to mentally kind of fact that into your costing. We have seen costs of insurance going up the past 5 years or so. It is substantial. So just making sure that you're mentally prepared for that, I think, is important. But, it's a huge service. We've seen a lot of people use it over the years. Either they get injured just before the climb or they have a family emergency or something like that, and they need to rely on insurance. And it's there for you if you've purchased it. So I think it's really important to have that insurance. But yeah, there can be other costs like hiring a coach. We've seen night and day difference between people that hire a professional coach and people that don't. It totally depends on your athletic background and who you are. I come from an endurance athletics background, so I may not hire a coach, but someone that doesn't come from that background, if you work with a coach, you have that accountability. They're checking in with you every day. I think that's really important. And we have seen people be more successful. We've got a whole team. We've got nutritionists, we've got breath work experts, and we find the more serious people are about climbing Mount Everest, the more invested they are, the more successful they're going to be. So, it's different for everyone. Again, there's that customization. I may not hire a personal coach, but there are other people that need that accountability. They need that kind of feedback loop to know they're training correctly for Everest. So there are a few extra costs there, but just reach out to us, ask us, and we'll let you know kind of, pricing on some of those things. The hypoxico speed ascent, there are a few additional costs there, but those programs can be right for some people. So I think, having that conversation with us is very important ahead of time.
Yeah, we really do try to be transparent when you're looking at all those customizations, that a la carte menu, what you can add on. It's going to say it costs this much, it costs this much. Doing hypoxico 30-day ascent, this is what we're going to add on to your trip costs. So we're not trying to hide that. It's all on our website. The last thing I want to talk about actually is the north versus south route. We do climb the south route, and we have a really wonderful 4 videos, the Everest inside. It's not this that we're talking about now, but it actually breaks down the climb into 4 stages. So it goes up to base camp and then further up the mountain to each camp. So if you're really looking at a breakdown of the south route and that experience, watch that webinar. It's Mike and Caroline, but that is on our YouTube channel. So Mike, we climb the south side of the mountain. Anything you want to say about the north side, the south side?
Yeah, real quick there. I've been to the north, I've been to the south. I haven't summited from the north side. I led a trek up to the North Col. Tendi has summited from the north side, I think several times, so he can talk more to that. But I've done 12 expeditions to Cho Oyu from the north side. I know the Tibetan side of the mountain and the Himalayas very well. And I can say I feel very confident that the south side is a safer side. There are a lot of reasons for that. One of the big ones being helicopters. If you need to be rescued out of Camp 2, we have helicopter access on the south side. We can get you from Camp 2 to definitive care in Kathmandu in an hour and a half. Whereas on the north side, there are no helicopters. There's no helicopter rescue. If you get sick or injured high on the mountain, it could take you 3-5 days, ride out on a yak, whatever it is, get guides and Sherpa to carry you on their back, get you down to a town, Jeep ride you back to Kathmandu. That could be 3 to 5 days, and that can make all the difference. So helicopters is a big one. We've got the HRA, Everest ER at base camp on the south side. We've got doctors that are trained there in high altitude physiology and are world experts at frostbite or altitude issues, whatever it may be. We've got them stationed at base camp on the south side. They don't have that on the north side. I think Summit Day on the south side is much safer. It's a much more direct route. So if you have issues, again, we can get you down. We can slide you down on the snow, whatever it may be. On the north side, it's this big, long traverse. Imagine if you break an ankle or twist an ankle on the north side and someone needs to get you down. There's no way that someone is going to be able to drag you down or carry you down at that altitude. So I think, I'll keep it short, but those are kind of the 3 big reasons. We've got many more on our website as to why we think the south side is the right way to go. But those are kind of the big ones from my perspective.
Wonderful. Yeah, that it's kind of hitting on the redundancies, the safety in the systems. That makes a lot of sense, Mike. Thank you for that. So Tendi, you've actually summited the north side. Just want to give us a quick little peek at what you think of the north side, how it compares to the south?
So I have been several times on the north side of Everest, and I have summited 3 times from the north side. One of the first challenges about climbing the north side of Everest is actually with the visa and permit, because you have to get this permit and visa from Chinese embassy. So it's very uncertain. Sometimes you just waiting to get your visa. You're not sure if you're going to even get the visa or not, or you're going to get the permit or not. Quite many people get rejected at the embassy or sometimes at the border when you cross to go to the Tibet, like you come to Nepal and then you go to Tibet. And at the border, sometimes you just get rejected there and you won't be allowed to enter into Tibet. And this is from the China embassy and authorities. So one of the first challenges that, really with the government things is very uncertain. Anything can happen. And then the second thing is, of course, the mountain climbing is really beautiful on the north side as well. But if I compare with the south side, then definitely the north side is much more colder and more windier. Obviously, the summit day is a lot more harder as well because it's mostly like a rocky. And as Mike mentioned, that it's in a long ridge line climbing. So it's not like usually usually when it's steeper, straight off, it is more easy than going over the difficult ridges. And there is a one place called second step, which is hard, technical, rocky rock climbing there. And so that is the only hardest part on the Tibet side, if I talk about the technicals. But the rest is like really, people sometimes get really tired on their way back down. And usually it gets really tough. And sometimes if people get sick, then only difficulties and challenge on the Tibet side or the north side of Everest is the rescue. Yeah, like Mike clearly mentioned that you can get down to the advanced base camp, which is at 6,400 meters. But from the advanced base camp to the base camp, it's like almost like 25 kilometers of walking. And you don't have any resources for like a rescue. The only resources means whether you walk supported by your guide or like porters on both sides, or you should be carried on a yak. And I have seen many people who get really sick. They used to hire a yak and they used to, sit on the yak. And I think sitting on the yak when you're sick, and it just gets worse. Like sitting on the yak is not as comfortable as sitting on a horse or something else. So it's like 25 kilometers to the base camp on the yak, and you are like already in a very serious conditions. Then you have almost like 2 days of ride, road trip to get to Kathmandu. And by the time, sometimes it could be really, in a case of an emergency, it could be very, very, very dangerous and very difficult. Again, for the north side, the one good thing about north side is there is no ice fall, but we have got the icefall on the south side, and I think that is what makes Everest climbing most exciting part. And we don't have that part from the north side. And we have got a lot of ladder crossings and all that from Nepal side. And for me, I like it because it's so exciting, to cross over the icefall and using the ladders and all that things. And more than that, climbing on the south side is like you climb like at your home, you feel like at home. You don't have any pressure of government, or you don't have any pressure of like anything. You not have to worry about not being able to get a permit or visa or something like that. So if you want to go to Kathmandu to get like a medical treatment or get a like couple of days of rest to recover well, that's completely very flexible. Whereas you don't have that kind of access and possibility on the north side. So, and then another thing is, of course, the south side is like the rescue. The rescue system is so easy. If in case of an emergency, one can get a helicopter rescue even in Camp 3, which is at 7,000 meters. So this is the good thing about climbing from the south side. And on the summit day, once you are down below the south summit, in case of somebody's a little tired or sick, we get a lot more confident in being able to help bring persons down to South Col without a big problem. So yeah, this is my thought about these two routes.
Tendi, thank you for sharing all that. So folks are really looking at the logistics of it, the safety of it. North side is also beautiful. Tendi, what you said about the ice fall really hit a note as just an onlooker. Those photos, the energy of the ice fall, what I hear our climbers talk about when they're in the ice fall, that just feels like it's so synonymous with climbing Everest. So it's really neat to hear you pay attention to that and give credit to just what's happening in there, the ladder crossings, that deep blue ice. And I will say that also our Everest Base Camp, we were the closest in this year to the icefall with just a panoramic view of the Khumbu icefall staring down at everyone, which is really quite incredible when you're sitting at Everest Base Camp in the big dome and you're looking up at that, just kind of painting that picture.
I think our climbers most appreciate the fact that they don't have to do another 45-minute trudge back after their rotations back down to get a hot chocolate and have a rest and take their boots off. They love the fact that we're right there. And Tendi, like, how early does the team go in and stake our spot? Because we're pretty protective of that spot, aren't we? It's like the highest on the glacier too, which means we have the best water source. You know what? We're not recycling water camp after camp. It's, again, really strategic.
He runs downhill.
Yeah, like a lot of the times, climbers and our trekkers who join us to Everest Base Camp, they kind of find it we're a little far away for the camp, but once they get there, they understand why we are there, why we choose that campsite, because really it's so quiet and we have got like a kind of like our own campsite. It's not crowded there. It's just for us. And we're so close to the Khumbu Icefall, and our trekkers, they spend a day there to explore the ice falls and do our training. And it's so so easy and so close by our camp. And same thing for our expedition member. Like their campsite really at the bottom of the base camp. And after like our member arrive our base camp, the other team they still have to walk like another almost like 40 minutes to get to that camp, and which is like very tiring. They go like, hey, why didn't our camp was chosen here? Like a lot of other camps complain after seeing our campsite.
That makes total sense. Those 40 minutes add up there and back. It's a lot of time. It's more miles on your feet at 16, 17,000 feet plus. Woof, that's a lot.
After just climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah. I did go ahead and put in consult call. You could, of course, just scan the QR code using your phone right now, but I also put the link in here. And then Caroline's email is in there as well. And we will get you squared away with whatever questions you have. But I think I'm wrapping up here. I'm going to pass it to Caroline to give any last thoughts before we go to Tendi and Mike. Caroline, anything you want to leave everyone with before we sign off today?
We're different. We're different and it works. And there's a reason that we're, consistently the most safe and successful team on Everest these days. And we really invested in your success. And it will start from the minute that you email or call us, and we'll give a shit. We will. We really care.
I love it. Thank you. Tendi, what would you like to leave folks with?
It's been a great pleasure to be here with you all, and I can't wait to welcome you to Everest next year or in the near future. Make sure that you have the training and you spend enough time for preparing ahead of time, and you are most welcome. I can't wait to be climbing with you, and it's going to be a great one.
Love it. Thank you for that, Tendi. And Mike, wrap us up.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to everyone for joining us. It shows us that you're committed to taking this seriously and doing your homework and getting the information you need to be successful on Everest. So, joining us for events like this is really important. We want to educate you. We want you to have the information and knowledge that you need to be successful on Everest. So thank you for joining us. If we haven't climbed with you yet, I look forward to climbing with you and welcoming you to the Himalayas, whether it's on Everest, the first ascent, Choyu, Lobuche, Everest Base Camp Trek. We've got an amazing team. I'm always so excited to get over there with Tendi Dai and his team. So we look forward to climbing with you.
Awesome. I feel like those closures just encapsulate each of your personalities so well. Tendi, the heart. Caroline, you are business. You're not missing a beat. And Mike, you are flying that plane for us and with a smooth landing. And I love it. So on behalf of Climbing the Seven Summits, Caroline, thank you for taking time to be here. Mike, of course, thank you for being here. And Tendi, it is getting late in Kathmandu. Thank you for sharing all of your whole country with us and your heart with us and everything else. So it means a lot to us. All right, folks, that's it from here. Thanks, everyone. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Tendi Dai.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you very much.